What is a component and architecture of CBS? Now we need to understand that because we need to understand how banking system works, right? So the overview of CBS is that there's a common IT solution. There's a central shared database which supports the entire banking application. This is common now in most cases where the database is normally centralized, right? Now, business process of all branches will be connected to this common database and they will be updating this common database. So what happens is if you look at this database, you get the overview of the entire bank's operations. You need not bother about each branch at all separately. Everything will come in one place. So what do branches do? They are actually functioning as delivery channels only. The centralized application software has got several components and it is supported by technology, obviously at a very high standard of business functionality. It is modular in structure. Modular means bits and pieces can be added or removed as the case may be, and it can be implemented in different stages. So modular means that only, right? And we have seen it in other places. So I am not explaining that again. Also, CBS software, it enables integration of all third-party applications. That is, if you want to put in more applications, like we saw Finacle or Finon and things like that, that had to be put in, that could be integrated very easily in that software. So there is a figure in the module which depicts these key modules of the bank, which is interfaced and that you can go through to get a better idea. CBS architecture, what does it have? Basically, core banking application. And that is critical for banking services. It's a mandatory requirement to provide a range of services. You know, all customers are to be given certain services without fail. This who says so? RBI says so. And the bank's branches accesses these applications from that centralized database. And these systems have to run 24/7 because even if you go to an ATM in the middle of the night, you should be able to get money. Similar is the case for internet banking or global operations. So the time taken for doing things or doing transactions is very shortened now compared to earlier, and communication technology and information technology both have been merged to suit these needs, which is basically the core needs of banking. That is why it is called core banking solutions. Computer software is used for this purpose across multiple channels. Perform core operations across multiple channels, like you have ATMs, you have the front office, then you have the internet banking. All of them has to be handled at the same time. So the key aspects that has to be built in any CBS software is what? First of all, the information has to be there all the time, correct? And it has to be customer centric. That means it has to suit the needs of the customer wherever he wants, whenever he wants. That is why your mobile applications have also become very important today. You have to also ensure that you are following the law, and there is a resource optimization. That is, all the resources of the banks are used in the optimum manner, not best. We are talking about optimum manner in such a way that every place which requires a resource at that point of time will get the benefit of that particular resource. What do you always find in a CBS? So what are the core features of a CBS? Basic modules you know. Savings account, current account, fixed deposits, bills, remittances, loans, advance, everything was implemented. You also have different delivery channels. That is, how do you service the customer? It's not only at the branch, right? It is also at ATM, internet banking, real-time gross settlement. All kinds of things are right now happening. All of them are delivery methods to the customer. Servers are on 24 hours, all days, 24/7, all days, right? Banking anytime, anywhere. Database of customers are updated in real-time basis. That is, as and when changes occur, it happens on a real-time basis in the database. And core features is, therefore, a whole bunch of things. What is that whole bunch? There's on-time, real-time process, online, real-time processing. Transactions obviously are posted immediately. So if I transfer some money, immediately my balance drops down and it shows. Correct? And all databases are updated simultaneously. There's centralized operations. There's business is separately kept in, and operations are separately maintained. So there's a separate hierarchy for both. Business and services are productized. That is, all products are created. There's only remote interaction with the customers. and so on and so forth. There's a whole bunch of things which, if you understand how CBS works, it will fall in place. So what are your major components of CBS solutions? Basically, you have to open accounts, correct? And that means you're bringing the customer on board. Then you have to manage their deposits and withdrawals, interest calculation, payments processing, loan disbursement, calculation, customer relationship management, all sorts of things which we normally do in the day-to-day management. All of this has to come into the CBS system. So what doesn't come? What doesn't come is stated in the branch level function, that is manual documents capturing data required for input into software, or internal authorization which is done in the bank, or initiating BOD operations, that is beginning of the day and end of the day operations. There are certain things that have to be done in the branch level, and reviewing reports for controls. This is all done at the branch level. What about technology and workflow? It is a group of networked bank branches, right? So you can, if I am holding a bank account in Mumbai branch, I can still operate that same bank account from wherever I am in the world, right? So customers can access their accounts and perform certain transactions from any bank branch, and therefore it is now said that customer is not of the branch, customer is of the bank. Combination of application software is there and networks devices, the two work together to give you the service. And there is a central data center which contains all the data, and the technology environment is based on client server architecture, meaning there is a server which is your remote server, which is also called a data center, right? And client is the service outlets. It could be branches or it could be direct from the customer. User actions and controls are elaborately menu driven, obviously, because the user has to be prompted to take action, to do whatever is required. They have to apply controls. Various periodical runs or mass activities like application of interest, that is yearly, say every quarterly, there will be application of interest and service charges. Updating of parameters globally, balancing, reconciliation of ledgers and TDS, that is also done at the data center level. And various control actions have to be taken at each branch. Obviously, when you're talking about core banking solutions, we need technology. And what is the technology components that we need to know? So software, where is it kept? It is kept in the centralized application server, which is in the central office data center. Otherwise, it won't work, right? And then that can be accessed from the branches or online also. So branches also access it. We also access it from wherever we are. So there is database server, there are other servers, there is application server, everything is centrally located, and it includes data center and disaster recovery center. Central office, normally CDC, your central data center, includes data center and disaster recovery center. What is disaster recovery? In case there is a disaster, the banking system still has to work. So how does that work? That is what the recovery system or mechanism is put in place. Now, key technology components is therefore, you should have a database and which has got some what we call as database environment. You should have an application software, right? So that's your application environment. You should have web connectivity, which is your web environment. It should be secure, so there's a security solution, and there's a connectivity to the corporate network and internet all the time. Data center has to be there, disaster recovery center has to be there, that is you mirror the data and keep it somewhere else, so that in case this server is destroyed or something goes wrong in it, then somewhere else the same thing will be picked up and there will be continuity in the business. Network solution architecture is to provide total connectivity. Then there is enterprise security is also required. Online transaction monitoring is required for fraud risk management, as well as branch and delivery channel environment. That is, branches level also you need to deliver. You also need to deliver at each client's place, right? So through the net. So technology architecture, this is a model which has been given in the form of a figure. You can go through that. That will give you an idea of how it works. What is a functional architecture? Basically, ERP software is required, enterprise resource planning software of a bank, which covers all aspects of banking operations and is modular in nature. That's a key characteristic of ERP, which we have already discussed. And implementation is depending upon how what is the need in a particular bank, what is the criticality of specific banking services. Accordingly, a chart has been given in the module which you can go through. How does CBS work? So basically, there is a platform whereby you can process the information within the enterprise, and that is given to the external service providers also. So that meets the needs of the bank, customers, bank itself, branch, staff, vendors, regulators and auditors. The entire flow of information, right from initiation to processing to storage to archiving, has to be done through this method, right? So that platform should be created, and it should interface with different types of software that may be developed in-house, or it can be got from outside, whatever the case may be. Which must be updated as required and should be controlled. So control is for what? Basically you have to achieve certain objectives. And what are your objectives? Banking automation objectives, basically you're planning, you're implementing the business objectives of the bank. Then you have to approve it. You have to get the approval for, because there's a high investment involved and there's recurring costs also involved. Then you have to choose the right kind of software and hardware to take care of whatever you need to achieve. Then you design and develop it depending on what is the need, or you procure it, which is standardized software. Then there's a testing which is done to check whether it works the way you want it to. Then the actual implementation happens of the software, and subsequent implementation is the biggest issue, which is maintenance of the software and upgradation as and when required. Maintenance also includes support, and once you have to upgrade, again you have to check whether it works. So testing, implementation again comes in. Apart from this, there is an audit involved. Point related to audit is both internal audit as well as external audit will come into play, because you have to check whether the security system and the computer system itself works the way that it should. Right. The core of CBS is the customer. Ultimately, you are servicing the customer who interacts with this CBS system. So, customer identification file will have to be created, which is a digital file where the customer identity details is maintained. And then you get a customer identification folio number. All accounts of one customer is mapped to this number. What does the CBS IT environment do? Basically, it provides the banking services for the branches of the bank, right? And it is all networked to each other, and it is also connected to the common data center. So the staff can process the transaction of customers of any branch, and the customers can also access their accounts and perform specific transaction. Customers of all branches becomes the customers of the bank. That's why we said they are not customers of the branch anymore, they are customers of the bank. And this happens through application software as well as network devices, right? That we have discussed. Centralized data center is there, and that comprises central application server and then application software which is centrally accessed. So this server, what does it contain? It accepts service requests from different machines, and that is called a client. And this is processed by that server and sent back to the client. Just like your computer, which is your desktop, this is a server which is remotely kept somewhere else. That's all you need to remember. So different types of servers you have: application server, database server, ATM channel server, internet banking channel server, then internet banking application server, web server, proxy server, antivirus software server. All kinds of servers you have for different types of purposes, right? It's a powerful and robust system. It should be developed as an internet base, because everything works on internet nowadays. It can be accessed through browser application, may be decentralized. It can be located at regional office also, at branch, for easy and quick response. User is not granted access to CBS directly. Now this we are not aware, right? It is always through some channel server that processes the request and fetches or sends data to CBS. That is why you have so many servers. And validation is complete process in the computer itself. The data is validated at the branch also, correct, which is sent to the respective channel server in the centralized data server. So then this receiving data, which performs necessary operations and then update the core database. So this back and forth will happen from user to the respective channel server, then from the server to the main data center, then the processing will happen, then it will go back to the channel server, and from there it will come back to the customer. So what about application server? What does it do? Transactions of the customer is processed by the data center. Application center is the one, or server is the one, which actually does this work. What does it do? It updates the account of the customer in the database server. So it's like a layering which is happening. Customer may do some other operation in a branch, process is validated at the branch, data is transmitted to the application software at the data center. It's updated in the database server, correct? Whenever operation, whatever operations the customer does, it will be automatically updated in the centralized database, whether he does it from internet banking or ATM or at the branch, whatever the case may be. So application software has to be latest version. It should be kept on being updated, and it is never static. It requires some changes, and it may be due to bugs, or it could be change in process, or whatever reason. Changes are never done directly to the application server, because that is a link between the customer to the data or database or data center. So first you check it on some test run, and then on a test server, and then programs are debugged. Once it is sure that it is working the way it should, then only you will connect it to the earlier version will be archived, and the latest copy will be the latest copy of software would always have a backup copy, and that is the one which is implemented. The other server which we would like to discuss is the database server. This is the data, right? Entire data of the bank is covered over here. So what does it contain? It will have a master data. Master data is the main data of the customer which does not undergo change on a day-to-day basis. It could be customer, could be employee, it could be base rates for advance, it could be FD rates, which don't change on a day-to-day basis or minute-to-minute basis. Application software accesses the database server. Then what happens? Data contained in the database must be secure, obviously, and then no direct access should be prevented, because you can't do unauthorized changes. Strict discipline regarding maintenance of the database server is to be maintained, and designated role for maintenance of the database is by the database administrator. Activities which are done here, all changes made will be recorded in a log, and then whenever you want to scrutinize a log, it will disclose the type of activities and the effect of such activities. The security aspects of database servers is a big audit concern, because unauthorized access should not happen. And the other one which we should connect to the database server is the automated teller machine server and the internet banking application server. Why? Because they also have to access the database. So if I go to a ATM machine and try to withdraw some money, it has to connect to my account and then update my account. No? So that part is done by the ATMS and the IBAS. Also, operation that has been performed by any customer in any branch also has to be updated at the same time, through ATM, through net, through mobile banking, whatever the system may be. Apart from this, you have the automated teller machine channel server. Obviously, we have ATM accounts, correct? It contains the details of those accounts, this server. Facility of using the ATM is created by the bank. Details of such customers are loaded on the ATM server. Everybody does not have a ATM card. So those who don't have will not be loaded on this. But in the central database, they will be still there. So suppose the central database is busy with central end of day activities, the file containing the account balance of the customer is sent to the ATM switch, and the file is called a positive balance file. Till the central database becomes accessible, ATM transactions are anyway passed through this ATM server. Once the central database becomes accessible, then it will be updated. So what happens is, what we are trying to say here is, central database may be busy, but the ATM accounts the customers can still be accessed because of the ATM server, channel server. Yeah. And it ensures a central database is always up to date. It's applicable to standalone ATMs at the branch levels, and the only control is through the ATM switch. We have also your internet banking channel server. No? Now what is this? you do your work through the internet banking, so something has to happen over there, right? So there is a server in between which stores the username and passwords of all the internet banking customers. Same like your ATM. Software stores the name and password of the customer, contains details about the branch where the customer belongs, and then first you have to log into the bank's website with the username and password. Then you have the internet banking application server. So channel is the route through which you go, and the banking software, the banking application server is the one which will connect to your database center. It's stored in the IBAS, authenticates a customer with the login details, and then once the authentication process is over, then it checks whether the customer is genuine or not, and then it was provided the internet banking facilities. Apart from these servers, we have a web server which will be used to host all web services and internet related services. Like what? The program uses hypertext transfer protocol, HTTP, which we use to serve the files that form the web pages. All online requests and websites hosted and serviced are through the web server. It's forwarded by their computers, and the computers that host websites must have the web server, otherwise it won't work. So if you have to open the bank's website, you need the web server, right? Then you have the proxy server. What is proxy server? Computer that offers a computer network service which allows the clients to make indirect network connections to other network services. That is, client connects to a proxy server, then requests a connection, file or other resource available on a different server. So proxy provides the resource either by connecting to that server or by serving it from the cache. So proxy may even alter the client's request or service response for various purposes. So you may not access directly the thing which you want, it will be indirect access. Antivirus software servers basically hosts antivirus software. So everything for ensuring that all software first scan to ensure that there is no virus or malware. So that is done first before you are allowed to go through further. Now there is a case study of IT deployment in bank which you can go through, which will help you to understand this in more detail.